Hi everybody and welcome to this webinar with nuclear graduates. So we're very busy at Gradcracker at the moment with record-breaking numbers of students visiting the site each day and a record-breaking number of placements and graduate opportunities. We recommend that you check in on Gradcracker as much as you can. We would suggest every day, but obviously we're going to say that, but definitely come to Gradcracker every day so you do not miss out on that perfect opportunity, because there are opportunities going live nearly every single minute of the day. So back to today's webinar. We're delighted to be joined by nuclear graduates. Welcome everybody. So normally we're joined by a recruiter, but unfortunately she's been unable to attend today. We're also missing a graduate. We meant to have Beth, but Beth's having a lot of technical issues. So we haven't got Beth on the call, but we've got Matthew, Reese and Luke, and we're really looking forward to hearing about their journeys so far. Again, don't worry about the recruiter and what they normally tell us about. So I've worked with nuclear graduates now for over 12 years, and I'm going to step in and tell you all about nuclear graduates, the graduate programme and the recruitment process. So the 2-year programme covers engineering, science and much more, and it's open to graduates from all disciplines and backgrounds. The programme lets graduates gain experience through placements at businesses or organisations, all based in the UK. So nuclear graduates are looking to go live on Gradcracker in the next few weeks. So make sure you spend this time carefully, head to their hub on Gradcracker today, start doing your research and follow them to be alerted when they do open up their positions. Their positions, wow, there's a bit of a list, so watch this space. So their positions include areas such as risk and assurance, communications, technology and innovations and health and safety, engineering, commercial and procurement, cybersecurity, and many more. Today, we're going to be hearing from graduates about their experiences from finding their roles on Gradcracker and the recruitment process, all the way through to the different projects that they've worked on and much more. So now let's meet the graduates and get an insight into the organisation. Firstly, I'm going to start with Matthew and Luke. So Matthew, tell me a little bit more about your journey so far. So where you went to university, what you studied, and when did you join nuclear graduates?
Yes, hi everyone. I studied mechanical engineering at the University of Bath, graduating in 2021, and joined the programme last year, October.
Perfect. So you've got some experiences so far, so thank you very much for that, Matthew. And on to you, Luke. So tell me a little bit more about where you went to university, what did you study, and how long have you been there?
So I graduated, so I did an integrated master's in chemical engineering at Strathclyde University in Glasgow. So I graduated last July or June, sorry, and I joined the same time as Matthew. I joined the graduate scheme last year.
Perfect, thank you very much. And Reese, last but not least, tell me about you.
Yeah, hello everyone. I studied for a master's in civil and structural engineering at the University of Liverpool between 2018 and 2022. So yeah, like Luke, I finished the summer of last year and I started on the graduate programme this time last year in October 2022.
Perfect. Super, lovely. Thank you very much, everybody. So like I said before, what I will do towards the end of the webinar is talk to you all about the recruitment process, hints and tips, straight from the nuclear graduates recruiters to you via me towards the end of the webinar. But what I'm going to do now is hand over to you, Jessica, to meet the grads a little bit more.
Brilliant. Thanks, Carla. So Matthew, I'm going to start with you because you're at the top of my list. If you could tell us a bit more about your journey so far at nuclear graduates and a bit more about your role.
Yeah, I'm sponsored by the Office for Nuclear Regulation. So I started there last October, did 8 months secondment until July this year. And now I'm currently on secondment at Rolls-Royce SMR, working in the development engineering team based in Warrington. So mainly doing kind of research and strategy thinking about how to make the new reactor work.
Okay, so tell us a bit about your secondment and then how that works. So for anyone that doesn't know, could you kind of introduce nuclear graduates in a sense of, it's kind of not a normal organisation, isn't it? You getting seconded is a normal thing to do in nuclear graduate world, but maybe not necessarily with other companies. So could you explain a bit about how it works for you, Matthew, and a bit about your secondments and how you pick them and everything else?
Yeah, so on the nuclear grad scheme, it's bespokely designed for us. So we're sponsored by one company in UK nuclear. So for me, that's the regulator, ONR. And then through that, you'll have a mentor to guide you through your 2 years, including for chartership in your respective institution. So for me, that's IMechE. And then did 8 months with them. And then the rest of the scheme, you do 2 other secondments with companies of your choice. So you can be quite flexible in the roles and fields that you get to work in across your 2 years.
So your first secondment, then how long, sorry, did you say that lasted for?
8 months.
8 months. So tell us a bit about that process then. What was that like? What experience did you have on that secondment, and what was the kind of day-to-day like for you there?
Okay, I mean, I had a great experience at ONR, really well supported and inducted into the nuclear industry because it's quite new. I didn't really know much about it at all when kind of applying for jobs or anything. So a bit of training, and then just kind of got thrown in at the deep end, doing some assessment work, making sure. So ONR's responsibility as an organization is to make sure UK nuclear is safe. So
Right.
that involves going on inspections to operating sites or assessing their proposals for new designs or design changes.
Fantastic. Okay. And Matthew, did you always want to work in the nuclear sector? Has this always been a driver for you? You know, you said that we kind of came across it and, you know, doing what you're doing now already. Is it surprised you where you're at? And is this
It has. When applying for jobs, I solely looked at kind of sustainable technologies, renewable energy, that kind of thing, and nuclear falls under that. So I didn't specifically seek it out, but I found this grad scheme has been a great opportunity for me and really developed a lot throughout this last year.
I bet. And what's life like so far then at Rolls-Royce?
Rolls-Royce is good.
Yeah.
Obviously very new, designing a new reactor at SMR. So definitely a very different challenge to ONR and fully embracing it so far. Only 3 months in, so still quite fresh, but also getting stuck in.
So have you had to relocate then, Matthew, for this particular role, or how does that work?
No, I haven't. So ONR is based in Liverpool,
Right.
and so I relocated for the start of the scheme.
Yeah.
But then now I just commute to Warrington.
Oh, that's not too bad, not too bad. Brilliant. Well, thanks, Matthew. We'll come back to you a little bit later on to find out a bit more detail about the rotations and what you've been involved in. So thank you for that. Luke, I'm going to come to you next. Same kind of question. If you could tell us a bit more about your current role and what you've been up to so far.
Yeah, so I'm a Rolls-Royce submarine sponsor graduate. So I did 2 for roughly 5 months of comments there in 2 different teams. First as a design engineer, and then as a process engineer in one of the plants. I've more recently, kind of last 2-3 months, been seconded or started my secondment at the UK Atomic Energy Authority. So they're a national laboratory, kind of the UK's kind of authority on fusion science and energy. Yeah, and I kind of just started in the last couple of months.
Fantastic. So tell us a bit about, you know, why nuclear graduates for you. You know, what was the kind of attraction? Have you been interested in fusion energy before? Is it something you maybe covered or not really?
So it wasn't, I'd always had some interest in the nuclear industry. I remember when I was younger, I just always say I wanted to be the one that solved fusion energy. But it's not that simple. But obviously, I've always had some interest in the nuclear industry. I thought the graduate scheme, like Matthew said, was a really good opportunity to get a kind of wide range of experience across the sector. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, and this gave me an opportunity to get a kind of wide range of experience, like I've been saying, across different companies. It allows me to see kind of how different companies function, what I like in different teams, and generally, yeah, I just thought it was a really good opportunity from that perspective.
Absolutely. And in terms of your experiences so far then, Luke, you know, what's the kind of team looking like that you're working in? What's kind of the day-to-day stuff looking like for you?
So in my first couple of secondments at Rolls-Royce, my first job, I was quite, I had my own task, very much kind of working on my own, but obviously a lot of help from the team where I needed. I started out. But then going forward with my second roles, it was a bit more collaborative, which was great. It was good to work with different people. Very much a kind of fast-paced organisation there. Whereas now I'm at the UKA, I'm working on the STEP project, and it's definitely a very different environment. It's kind of it's like a government offshoot company, a bit slower than what I'm kind of used to, but definitely a good experience and kind of slightly more research orientated field.
Absolutely, and this is the thing, thinking about nuclear graduates, it really is an opportunity to experience different businesses, different ways of working, but then following through that passion. It's really, really interesting. So Reece, I'm going to come to you next. Similar question, kind of why nuclear graduates? What's your current role like, and tell us what life is like for you.
Yeah, so the other graduates have touched on it. It's very different to any of the graduate program you see out there with, you can really tailor the program to how you want to develop personally. That was the main highlight for me to apply for this role. So I'm on the NDA Group graduate program. So I'm sponsored by Magnox Limited. So a bit different to Matthew and Luke as well. But yeah, I've completed my first secondment over the first 8 months, and now I'm with Arup. So they're an external structural design company. So yeah, mainly doing the first comment was mainly looking at decommissioning, and now I'm more into the new build and structural design. So it's completely different, but really good to get that wide range of tasks.
It's a bit of a shout out then. So next week we're actually doing a webinar with Arup.
Yes,
so
yeah.
You can come back, love. Just change your background. We'll have you back. How interesting though. Again, this is why nuclear graduates is so unique, as you're saying, to get these different experiences with different organisations. So your journey so far then, Reece, did you expect it to go in this direction? You've picked Arup after your first secondment. Is that what you wanted to do, or was this something a bit like Luke and Matthew said, you just kind of want to get as much experience as you can?
Yeah, obviously after graduating as a civil and structural engineer, I wanted to get the technical knowledge of structural design in. So a company like Arup could really offer that, and then using that knowledge then to go back into Magnox as my sponsoring company, is key for development towards chartership, stuff like that. So yeah, it's really good just to be able to think and decide. I could have gone into something, some other aspect of civil engineering, but for me it was really good to pick where I wanted to go, and yeah, I've made a good choice. I think I'm really enjoying it. So yeah,
it sounds like it. So how long have you been with Arup for?
I've been with Arup now on my second secondment for around 3 months, so similar to the other graduates. Doing three rotations. So
sorry, and is it for 8 months?
Yeah, this one will be until March, so another 8 months with Arup.
Fantastic. So you mentioned Magnox then. So sorry, just so I'm clear, and just the audience are clear as well. Will you ultimately go back to Magnox then once you finish your secondments, with them being the sponsoring company? How does that work?
Yeah, that's the aim for me. Yeah, hopefully at the end be heading back to Magnox as a member of staff with them. So yeah, hopefully be able to get a civil engineering role, post scheme with them.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Exciting stuff. Okay, so now we want to talk a bit more about the rotations. I know we've kind of touched upon them already, but just to go into a bit more detail. So I'm going to come back to you, Matthew. So if you want to tell us, obviously I know you've just started at Rolls-Royce, but talk about your first secondment and the experiences you had there, and especially kind of coming as a graduate. It sounds as though you get a lot of responsibility straight off the start out the gate. So yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, my experience was certainly that, but you're obviously not thrown in totally responsible for the whole of UK nuclear safety. So there's plenty of process with reviews and peer reviews and so on. So you don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders, that's for sure. But no, I was thrown into a project of a safety case assessment for a new transport package. So it was really good to get down in the details for me as an engineer. That was kind of a good way to settle in, then also learn about kind of the writing style for reports and communicating with your team internally, but also these reports have to be seen publicly, so you've got to be able to communicate with the general public and they have to be able to understand that. So had some good training from other kind of inspectors, they're called, within ONR, and senior people giving lots of support. They're always open to help the new grads, and there's a new support system within the ONR for developing people, as they used to kind of focus on more experienced employment. They're now really driving that graduate recruitment through the scheme, which I mean, I think is great as a graduate, obviously.
Absolutely. So Matthew, was you with other graduates, on these projects then, or would you tend to be the only graduate working on these, kind of projects and working with senior people? How would it look in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, there are 8 of us, 8 now, new grads that have just started, and there were 5 of us in our cohort at ONR, but we're all kind of spread around through the different divisions. So it would generally be me and someone much more senior working on these projects, kind of supervising and supporting me through them.
Yeah.
So you have some good independence, I'd say, while also having that oversight. So it's good balance.
Absolutely. So you mentioned about, it was you, Matthew, sorry if it wasn't, it mentioned about being chartered and wanting to be chartered in the future. So in terms of that kind of experience then, would you say that doing this particular kind of scheme with nuclear graduates will help to benefit you and potentially hope to reach that chartership a bit quicker because of all the experience that you get in, would you say?
Oh yeah. I mean, having that opportunity to work in different teams, different projects, and being able to adapt and show that you can be proactive in your work is really helpful for that chartership and hitting all those competencies. And I think the scheme's great for that.
Yeah, and it really is about those competencies, isn't it? You've mentioned you've got to be a good communicator. You're working together as a team. You're working with lots of different types of people with different abilities as well. Would you say that they've supported you then, in terms of those? I'm not saying you haven't got good communication skills, but if you were a bit nervous in a situation, a bit anxious, do you feel like you get that support then from your team?
Yeah, so you're provided with a mentor from your sponsoring organization who's with you throughout the 2 years. Yeah. And so for me, he's also functioning as my chartership mentor. So he's always there as a support, and also your line manager within your sponsoring organization, or wherever you're seconded to, is always a good port of call for support. So there's always someone available to talk to if you're worried about anything, or just need some help.
And that person then that you work with in terms of your chartership, you'll stay with that person and throughout all your different secondments. It wouldn't change.
I would in theory, but mine's leaving ONR in a few weeks, so I'm going to change.
But normally,
typically you would, yeah.
You would, which is good as well. Again, it's nice to have that kind of friendly face as well, I can imagine. Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you, Matthew. Luke, I'm going to come to you then. A bit more detail, if possible, about your kind of rotation projects that you've been involved in so far, if that's okay.
Yes. Sorry. So, like I said, those Rolls-Royce submarines before. Obviously, can't say massively lots of detail of what I was doing there. When I was first kind of in my design role, it was really good. They had quite a big supply chain in that role, so I got in quite a lot of supplier visits. So it was really good to see that kind of interaction between 2 different companies that I wouldn't typically get. Then in my second role, working kind of on a process plant, I'd never actually had that kind of physical experience of being on a operational process plant before, and particularly going through kind of uni over COVID. So that was a really good experience, actually getting to kind of see an operational plant in the flesh, and kind of the kind of projects I was working on So it's kind of the two current class submarines. So the Astute and Dreadnought class, they're the ones that kind of my work was focused around, just for general overview. And now currently I'm at UKAEA. I'm working on the STEP project. So that is the spherical tokamak for energy production. So that's it's going to be a prototype fusion power plant aiming to be constructed in the kind of 2040s. And the kind of idea is that it will be the first kind of fusion power plant prototype to actually give net electricity to the grid. And yeah, it's had quite a lot of news around it. I'm sure some people have probably heard of it.
Yeah.
So Luke, working on projects like this, having this, these kind of projects being, landing on your desk, what is it like to feel that, you are making those changes? You are, I think, driving the country, driving the world into, different directions. How does it feel to have, Matthew mentioned to you a bit about responsibility, but, that forward thinking responsibility that you are making those changes, and how does it feel to have those projects, like I say, on your desk?
It can feel quite daunting at first, but you almost feel, I know many of the grads at different times I have as well, you almost feel like you're slightly unqualified to be working on such large projects, but you are just given so much support through your line managers, and like Matthew talked to your mentors, through different people in your team. You've got a buddies you can talk to, and yeah, they're just really great opportunities to really make a difference. And kind of, and different engineering projects that are going forward and things. It's always good to see what you're working on is in the news at different times. It definitely kind of, it gives you kind of an extra wee spark in the morning to get up.
I can imagine, definitely. Do you know, I've done a lot of sessions over the last couple of weeks with lots of different universities across the UK, and sometimes the question comes up a lot about, a bit like what you've mentioned about like imposter syndrome and, what do I need to do this job? And almost, can I have a black and white of the skills I need to learn? I mean, I know hindsight is a wonderful thing, and a lot of people say the same thing, you've just got to go for it. But for any of the audience listening now, is there anything that you now know that you kind of wish you knew before you applied? Or maybe any skills or any, we've talked about being a good communicator, so that kind of stuff. Is there anything you think, is anything that someone could be doing now to kind of improve on something that you think, I didn't know that, I wish I knew that before, or anything?
If I'm totally honest, I think, unfortunately, I think there's not necessarily, don't worry about doing anything right now. The best way to learn these things is actually doing it. You get given lots of training, and that's all great things, and they can help you kind of when you're actually doing the things. But until you actually do it, that's when I found most of my learning. So I think it's really important, if you're kind of in these roles, particularly at the early stage, I've found, is ask for that feedback from from your line manager, different people in your team, as quickly as possible. So get a kind of quick draft done of your work, and then get that feedback. That's where I found a lot of my learnings come from, and a lot of my improvements come from the kind of first year of the scheme. Yeah, no, that's a really good answer. So like Matthew, then, are you wanting to become chartered, Luke? Are you working in that same kind of trajectory as well? Yeah, so I'm trying to get chartered to the iChemE, so for chemical engineers. It's kind of, I've kind of understood now, kind of working with a mentor and stuff, the process. Not only through my mentor, I've managed at Rolls-Royce, I was given some additional support through different people to understand the process of what I need to go through. Just kind of try to match all my secondments to different competencies. Understand realistically, I'm not going to come off the graduate scheme and be chartered, but I'll definitely be much further forward in that process. Yeah. And it's, having those expectations, like you say, it's really uncommon, isn't it, in the industry to come out of a graduate program and, secure chartership. So it's, having those expectations, but putting yourself in those situations
where you are willing to learn as much as you can and upskill yourself. And I think, yeah, if you go in with that mindset, you're not going to do wrong really there, are you? So thank you, Luke. I don't know if there's anything else in terms of projects maybe you've worked on, though, anything in particular that's been your favorite, just coming back to, because you've done some amazing stuff already.
Yeah, I mean, not directly related, but obviously kind of at Rolls-Royce, there's a lot of kind of other stuff happening with the AUKUS deal that was announced kind of earlier this year. One that's always kind of I always find interesting is their microreactors that they're kind of touting to be used in space. So that's definitely kind of a lot happening in the nuclear industry just generally, and that's just kind of small insight into kind of what's happening at the Rolls as well.
Again, that's a really good point as well. For students that are thinking about going into this industry, there's, like you said, there's lots of stuff going on in the media at the moment. It's getting that understanding, getting that knowledge, understand what employers are doing and what different employers are out there that are involved in the sector, because ultimately that'll help to make the decision, but also be aware of potentially the projects that you could be working on if you did secure a place for nuclear graduates, which is super exciting. So, Reese, I'm going to come to you next. There's kind of no real format to this webinar anymore. Just asking you, because I just want to know everything. So, Reese, just tell me everything that you've been doing, anything exciting, and what's been your best bit so far?
Yeah, so for my first comment with Magnox, I was based on site, so that was really interesting. Being based on a decommissioning nuclear site. Being there's a lot of demolition going on, and planning works for future demolition projects. So mainly was working on demolition for my first secondment, and just being able to be on site and seeing like the scale of plant was really interesting. Not just as a civil engineer, but just in general. It was just quite amazing, especially when you first go to a site for the first time. So did some various work there, did some inspections, mainly, like I said, planning work. And it really, when you go through university and then you head out into the world of work, you kind of see, when you actually apply your work into a real scenario, it's it's such a change from university. And it was, I think, working in this industry, it's not just the same thing every day. So that was great. Then for my second secondment now, I'm on structural design, which is totally different to what I was doing in the last secondment. And I've been working on quite a few projects, main one being for a new technology center, designing that, talking to clients and finding out exactly what they want from their building, and talking to architects and cost consultants. So seeing the whole picture of a project has been really important, that you don't necessarily see when you're doing. For me, it was a lot of calculations in university as a civil engineer, but in the real world, it's not just that, it's the whole picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, what do you prefer then, decommissioning or building it and putting something new up?
I don't know. I knew you'd ask this. It's very 50-50, but new build's so exciting because you can. It's totally different to a piece of plant that's 60 years old. So personally, I think decommissioning's more for me at the moment, but
is it?
It might change. Yeah. It's just seeing how everything used to work and how everything was designed before. We've got all softwares and computers now. It's just amazing.
Is it completely different skill sets, Reece, that you have to use as well between decommissioning and making something that's new?
Yeah. So for something that's new, obviously you've got all standards and procedures you need to follow. Back then it wasn't as strict. Everything was done by hand, not on a computer. So seeing how they designed something by hand, a full power station, and it was never designed to be pulled apart like they are being done now. So just thinking outside the box and thinking of the best way to decommission these sites is totally different to how you'd how you design for a new build, you know.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like that, it's you're engineering, at the heart of it, isn't it? That's kind of what, everyone doing stuff, I guess, that kind of, when I say old school, but I guess it is in a sense. That's really interesting though, that Reese, that you do prefer that side of it. In terms of, which kind of leads me on to my next question, would be, where do you see your future going after this? I know it's kind of hard to ask that question when you're so early into it on.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that maybe is an area that you wanted to go back into. So it was Magnox, isn't it, that your company is? So is that something that they can offer? So what happens if you were in a situation, for example, that you start to think, actually, I'm interested in a certain thing, but what happens if Magnox couldn't help you with that?
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of the graduate scheme. You can really find what you like. You can really tailor it to yourself and your own development. For me, I really enjoyed my time at Magnox, and I'm enjoying my time now. But yeah, like Matthew and Luke, my aim is to become a chartered civil engineer with the IC, the Institution for Civil Engineers. And this 2-year program is really helping to tick off the attributes that I need to gain chartership. From technical ability, commercial awareness. Trying to get as much as I can out of these 2 years. And your question about if Magnus can't offer something, then the industry as a whole has something for everybody, I think. And it's not just technical or engineering students. It's a very wide picture of professionals that are needed in the bigger pictures to make sure that everything works. And I think if anybody on the call who's not engineering or STEM background, there's always something for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting as well that the network that all three of you are creating now is phenomenal. Again, it's unlike any other kind of normal graduate program, isn't it? Because you're creating, these networks with the people that have got years worth of experience working on, your traditional kind of engineering stuff to your brand new stuff, with like Luke, you're really forward thinking in your current project that you're working on. And it's just amazing, really, the networks that you're creating and the experience that you're gaining. It is unlike no other. So in terms of kind of next steps then upon completion. So Matthew, I'm going to come to you on this one. Again, I know it's a bit of a hard question to answer, but can you see where you would be going after the graduate scheme and what your next steps would look like?
Kind of. I think my current plan is to hopefully go back to the ONR at the end of the scheme and work towards becoming chartered and also becoming a fully qualified nuclear inspector with them, which normally takes about 5 years after finishing the scheme. So that's my current plan.
Yeah. And in terms of, potential for the future then, Matthew, do you think you would see yourself staying in the UK, or would you potentially ever want to, once you've, come off the programme, look to travel across, Europe and worldwide?
Gosh, that's an interesting question. I'd probably stay in the UK. I'm quite a patriot. But there are opportunities to do kind of international secondments within the scheme, or go to conferences. So I actually spent last week in Vienna at the International Atomic Energy Agency for a conference. So there are opportunities to do that and definitely work abroad.
Oh, interesting. That's good to know. Good to know. A lot of people are asking me that at the moment about international opportunities and that chance to travel. So that's really good to know. So thanks, Matthew. Luke, similar kind of question. I know it's a hard one to answer, but where do you think you'll be in 5-10 years' time?
I guess since Matthew's just mentioned it as well, I may as well talk around that. I'm currently trying to do an international comment at the IAEA, so kind of starting kind of later next year. I'd always kind of been interested in the organisation and considered kind of working there in the future at some point. So kind of, but slightly shorter term, coming off the scheme, I do actually plan to take a couple months off before I go back to my sponsor organisation at Rolls-Royce. Kind of, yeah, we are kind of depending on sponsoring and kind of where you are kind of given that flexibility at times where so I plan to take a couple of months off and then go back to Rolls-Royce. Ideally back into the team I was on my second secondment there. I really enjoyed it. It was really varied work. And then yeah, I think I plan to stay there until I get chartered at least. And then kind of see what else potentially is out there in the future. But yeah, like I said, I've got some ideas, but there's a lot can change.
You never know what's around the corner, do you? Luke, not to know about your personal situation on why you're coming off, but so that is an option then. You can come off the programme for a couple of months. What, then to travel, to gain experience elsewhere? Is that normal? Is that what everyone can do or not?
That's not, I should say that's not directly on the scheme. So that'll be once I've finished.
Okay.
Before I go into my full-time role.
Right, sorry.
I would have a kind of couple of months to to do it then, and it's a great opportunity, kind of time wise between kind of starting your official role to get that in.
Again, that's quite unique. That's not the norm really. When you look at other grad programs at other organisations, tend to roll straight onto that particular role. So that's again quite a unique option that you can do that, which is again good to maybe gain any experience that you want to gain. Reese, I know you kind of answered it, but long-term goal, 10-year plan?
Yeah, definitely chartered. I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. But yeah, definitely chartered by, hopefully within 5 years of completion of the programme. That's my aim. And yeah, see what happens from there. There's a lot of opportunity coming up with Great British Nuclear now, with new build, hopefully getting more and more sites in the UK. So see what happens in the future. Yeah, like you said, you don't know what's around the corner, so
you don't. And that's the thing, the experiences that you're all gaining now, you could, fall into something new and think, actually, I'm really excited about this and this is where I want to go next. Next, I want to talk a bit more about training and development. So I know we spoke about a bit already, but has anyone had a particular experience or anything like we kind of mentioned with you, Luke, if you were, your younger self again, is there anything that you would almost the advice that you would give to your younger self in terms of, almost don't worry, practice this, do that, or, anything like that you would maybe give to your younger self or any of the audience that is listening? So Matthew, I'm going to put you in the spotlight here and come back to you first on that.
That's a great question.
I love it when people say that. Great questions like to that.
I'd also like, Matthew, just to maybe help you out a little bit as well, is get to know about why chartership is so important to you. You all want to do chartership, and there'll be students watching this thinking, do I want to become chartered? Do I not want to become chartered? So specifically to you, why is chartership so important?
Okay, that one's really
I was trying to help you then.
Yeah.
Is that a better one?
Yeah. So it's just it's a professional accreditation. So it shows to any potential employer that you're good at your job, basically.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, it's kind of a no-brainer to go for, especially as an engineer. There's a clear route to it through. So I'm going through IMechE, and there's a clear kind of 4-year plan, step by step. Write your quarterly reports, annual reports, and so on, and you have your mentor to help you through it. But you don't necessarily have to do anything special for it. Most of the tasks and projects you're going to get, especially working on this scheme, you're going to be hitting those requirements easily. It's just a case of keeping up with recording it and showing people that I can do this. That's the main reason why I'm going for it.
Perfect.
So training development.
This question. You're not going to get out of that one.
I mean,
I forget about the second half of the question because I don't even really know what that was either. But yeah, training development. Have you had anything that you think, oh, that was really good, I needed that, or support?
So in terms of training on the scheme, it's all good. You brought together with the whole graduate cohort to do
Oh, okay, that's
various
good.
different kind of training zones. They're called for a few days at a time. So that'll be on leadership or business skills. They're quite varied. And then you also have your own training budget to use as you like. So I did a week on the APM project management qualification. So there's that flexibility within the scheme, which, I mean, it's great.
That's pretty
Again.
cool. Yeah, quite unique as well to nuclear graduates. Yeah.
That's really good. So in terms of Matthew, in terms of getting together with you know, the kind of graduate cohort, I bet that's quite a good experience as well, again, to network with that group, to see what other training people have been on, and you can then discuss, you know, that was actually really good, that was worth doing, or whatever. So do you get guided that way at all in terms of what you can do next? Or again, is it more driven by yourself and, you know, finding opportunities that are relevant to what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so I'd say for the scheme, like set training itself, it's all dictated by Energis and the scheme. Yeah, but I think, I mean, one of my favorite things about the grad scheme is having that kind of community of graduates. So there's 50 of us with all different disciplines, different experiences, working in different companies in different parts of the country. Plus, it's good to just have people you can relate to, get along with throughout, you know, your early career. Plus, you've got the network of all the other older, like, alumni of the nuclear graduates, the last 12 years, which you'll inevitably meet them throughout your secondments. There's plenty in ONR and now Rolls-Royce SMR who've done the scheme and know what it's like and what we've been through and the opportunities we get.
It's nice as well to then see potentially where you can end up and look at other people's journeys as well and see.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good, that Matthew. Thank you for answering that. Sorry about the first question. We got there in the end. Luke, come to you. Similar kind of thing. Training. Is it the same as Matthew in terms of get your own budget and things like that?
Yeah. So, like you said, like Matthew said, you get your own kind of budget to do that. It's always great to talk to the kind of cohort above that's just graduated, kind of what they had done, what they found good. Like Matthew as well, he was able to go to a conference in Vienna. I was able to go to a conference in Krakow earlier this year for a week, which, yeah, a great experience, meeting people from across Europe in the nuclear sector. So yeah, it's like it'd been kind of talked about before, it's really good to develop your network and not just kind of in the UK nuclear industry, but potentially beyond, depending on what you can get up to on the scheme. And then kind of going on to kind of training and chartership. I think one thing that's always really important that's maybe kind of put on oversight is kind of those soft skills. So you get a lot of that training through the scheme. But similar to kind of what I said earlier, it's really about kind of getting into your role, getting embedded into your team, learning, it's kind of that almost passive learning from your team, the experiences they've had. Yeah, that's the most valuable part I was finding. So yeah, if you can get kind of improve your kind of interpersonal skills in any way, I think that's probably one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, definitely. Luke, don't mind me asking, did you do a placement or anything with a different company before coming to Nuclear Graduates?
No, so I'd not directly. I had a placement for my master's project.
Okay.
So a small amount of time, kind of 6 months I was there, kind of in the hydrogen field. So a bit different, but still kind of in that renewables / clean energy sector, which has always been quite interesting to me.
Yeah. Would you say that placement helped you when it came to this role that you're in now as well, in terms of what you wanted to do, that drive in terms of, you know, again, you've mentioned about soft skills and key competency skills. Would you say that helped?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of, yeah, just getting embedded into a company. I'm quite good at changing jobs now. I've basically had 4 jobs, you could argue, over the last 2 years. So when I came to UKAA, it didn't feel strange at all. So kind of getting used to things changing is definitely something that's actually I didn't expect from the scheme, but I've realised it's actually been a massive benefit being able to be kind of adaptable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And being able to adapt is a really, really good point. It's a good skill to have. You see it a lot in the job descriptions. Again, when I'm doing these webinars, you look at these kind of key competencies and, being able to communicate, being able to adapt, is up there, isn't it? And showing that you've got those skills is a really, really good one. So well done, Luke. And Reese, come to you. Training and development, what have you received so far?
Yeah, similar to Matthew and Luke. The core training, which is provided by Energous, is really key. Gives you all the training's been quite different, broad, and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily cover in your secondment locations, really. So for me, I think personally, commercial awareness was one that was the most beneficial for me. I hadn't had much exposure to any of that field, but it's also really important to tick off attributes with the Institution for Civil Engineers as well. So yeah, and like Matthew said, we've got our own budget. I'm doing a course next week with the Institution for Structural Engineers. So just having that flexibility to be able to go into our own personal training budget to go on a course that perhaps another civil engineer in our cohort, that wouldn't maybe be for them, but if it's for me, then just having that ability to pick what's good for you has been really good for me so far.
Yeah, really, really good. This is how my brain works, but I'm like, what happens if you go over budget? Do you have to pay for yourself?
You can't.
You just can't.
No, your budget's set out, and you can keep track of it throughout your 2 years. So yeah, you get your budget for your 2 years, and yeah, you just stick to it during.
Next question.
But why can't you? Why can't you go over budget?
What happens if you see it like a training program you want to go on, but then you can't afford it?
Can't go on it.
I think you can pay. I think you can support it with your own money. Yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of graduates though have planned out what they'd like as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't go crazy.
No, plan ahead, Jess. Plan ahead.
Plan ahead. Oh my. Perfect. Okay, well that sounds amazing. So talking about planning ahead, let's have a look at the application process, Carla.
That's a good lead. So a couple of things I just want to explain. So we've mentioned a couple of different company names. So Energous is actually the company, Nuclear Graduates Graduate Programme is the name of the programme, or the NDA is the name of the programme. So just to be absolutely clear. And also it's really lovely to hear some of the other advertisers. You mentioned them. So, for example, Arup, UK AEA, and Rolls-Royce, obviously all advertise on Gradcracker as well. So it's really nice to hear about our friends across the board as well. So Jessica says, I want to go through the application process, what that's all about. So this is from Nuclear graduates. They've told me what the application process is going to look like this year. So key things to note at the beginning is they're not currently open to their applications. So what you need to do is go into the Nuclear Graduates Hub on Gradcracker and follow. So then that means you will be alerted to when they do open their applications via email and push notification on the app. So step 1, follow. Step 2, do your research. Use this time now while they're currently closed to applications to do your research. Watch the videos, rewatch this webinar, look at the snippets, and then when they do go live with their positions, read the job descriptions thoroughly. When the job's live on Gradcracker, if you scroll down to the bottom of the job description, there'll be an apply link. If you click on that, you'll be directed through to the Nuclear Graduates website, and then you'll be asked to complete an online application form. So a top tip from the recruiters at Nuclear Graduates, make sure you complete all required sections of the application to ensure that your application is submitted successfully. So if you don't complete all the fields, your application won't go through. So please take your time, be methodical, and research, and obviously read all of the bits and pieces on their website. Next, you will be invited to complete an online assessment. So this may also include a video element to that as well. So the assessments give you the opportunity to gain a better understanding of what's required of you and of the nuclear sector in general, and as obviously the part of the graduate programme. So next is the assessment centre. So the assessment centre includes lots of different activities alongside information about the nuclear sector and the programme as well. And the assessment centre will be face-to-face this year. So nuclear graduates are looking forward to meeting you in person. Finally, if you are successful, nuclear graduates aims to come back with you within 2 weeks. And then you will start your exciting journey with nuclear graduates. And the people there at Energous, so if I wanted to explain who they were, they will be dedicated to helping you complete your security paperwork ahead of starting the programme in September 2024. So those are the different stages and steps when you are putting your applications through. But it all starts with following them on Gradcracker, then it all starts applying. So just focus on that bit to start off with. What I want to do now is go back to the grads and get some words of wisdom, all about how you can be successful during the recruitment process. So Matthew, I'm going to start with you. So how would you tell the students that how can they be successful?
I'd say, like, when it comes to the assessment centre, you want to speak your mind, because you're going to have to be thinking through various problems and challenges with other people and also on your own. And part of what nuclear graduates, the recruitment team, are looking for and the sponsors are looking for is how you think and how that can work within their teams. So you've got to be able to communicate that during your sessions at the assessment centre.
Perfect. And Rhys, what would you say? How would you say you could be successful?
I think my main point to applicants would be just to be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else, and just take your time during the application process. Make sure, like you said, that you've completed everything, and really showcase who you are. They're my main points.
How do you do that though? If I was a student watching, I'm thinking, how do I showcase myself then? So this is a difficult question. So how did what points about Rhys did you want to bring out as part of the assessment centre?
You've really got to, showcase what you've learned in university. Not in too much detail, but what you've learned and how you've learned, and just how your previous experiences or your current university experiences will help you in a role with Energous on the scheme. I think that's what I concentrated on at the time, but a
long time ago now. And how did you prep for that then? Did you take notes? Because I know a lot of students, when they do attend assessment centres and things like that, they don't realise that they can actually take notes with them, like prompts and things like that. So is that something that you did?
Yeah, for mine was virtual actually during the COVID period. So it'll be a bit different for the in-person assessment centres. But yeah, I did actually help out on one of them last year, and welcome to take notes, and anything that you think can help you on the day would be, you can take them with you. So
how did you find that then? So interviewing people who are going to be graduates, were you a little bit apprehensive doing that?
Yeah, it was a bit strange actually. Seeing potential graduates, and it was a really good day. And you can just like I said, be yourself, be as confident as you can, and if you really showcase who you are and how you can make a positive impact in the industry, then that's a big step in gaining a position.
Thank you, Rhys. Proper insider view there, so thanks very much for that. And Luke, I just want to talk to you a little bit more about the onboarding process. So how did you find that? What support was given to you by Energous, and how did you prepare for your first day at Nuclear Graduates?
So just quickly, obviously there is the kind of security clearance process. Energous were really helpful throughout that. It can take quite some time, so you just need to be patient. They had a welcome event for us kind of earlier in the summer before we started was a great chance to just learn more about the scheme, and so on and so forth. Kind of meet other people in the scheme as well, which is a great opportunity. And then kind of leading up to induction, which is a kind of 2-week process, at least for us. It was a 2-week process. We just get to learn kind of more about the scheme, kind of almost building towards friendships with other graduates. And I particularly highlight, I believe it's still going on, is the GAIN course they get you to do. So that's kind of an introduction to nuclear, which is really beneficial to most people in the scheme, particularly with such a varying degree of kind of understanding the nuclear sector. And that all really helped me kind of leading up to my kind of official start date with my sponsor at Rolls-Royce. Kind of just, I felt comfortable knowing kind of what I was going into. Additionally, there's kind of, we were given a buddy beforehand, so if I had any kind of questions, so in the cohort above, so I've had just been given my buddies from the cohort below recently. So if they had any questions for me, I just kind of hopped on a call with them and answered kind of any queries they had, which is a really good opportunity for myself and as well as them to kind of just, more easily settle in.
Yeah. Would your top tips be just make sure you ask anything?
I think obviously it's very much kind of up to the person. I didn't have too many questions. I quite like just going into it to see what happens, but everyone's there to answer a question. Don't feel like you're bugging anyone. I quite like answering questions for people when they need help. It makes me feel good. I'm sure most other people do as well. So if you've got any questions, just make sure to ask the team or kind of anyone else that you're given.
Luke, that's a really good point, isn't it? People actually like being asked a question about them or what they do or what their interests are. So that's a good point. So don't be afraid. I think sometimes you think to ask questions like, oh, you put the onus on yourself, don't you think, am I going to look stupid? Or but if you do ask, if they're 9 times out of 10, they'll want to help you. They'll be willing to talk about it because they're passionate and interested in it as well. So really good point there.
It just shows how much you know as well, doesn't it? When somebody asks you a question, you think, oh, I know the answer to that. And I've only been here a couple of months. So a bit of an ego boost as well. So just moving away from the day job, so other bits and pieces that you get up to outside the 9 to 5 on your graduate programme, what other things do you do? Do you do things like, I know you mentioned mentorship and things like that, but do you do sporting activities as a group, anything exciting that you want to share? Anybody? Matthew?
Well, when we're in our when we're in our training weeks, I'll organise a 5-a-side football or something, just so we can do something while we're all together and be a bit more sociable. Yeah,
that'll be nice. And anything else from you, Reese?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're all spread out across the country, so it's quite difficult all the time. But like being based in one area, like we've got a group for the grads in the northwest at the moment. So there's always something going on. So
trips to the pub. That's what me and Jessica going straight after this webinar. And anything for you, Luke, that you want to add?
So I was quite fortunate at Rolls-Royce. There was quite a number of the graduates there, so we spent quite a lot of time together, like you said, at the pub. But even things, it's like if there's kind of all the graduates are always keen to kind of get out and meet people. I managed to drag some people along to bouldering and stuff. If you ask other grads, they normally are more than happy to come along, and they might get interested as well in different things.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the networking again, like Jess said at the beginning of the webinar. So I'm going to finish off now with my favourite part of the webinar, the quick fire round. So coming to you again, Matthew. So favourite thing about nuclear graduates?
I'd say it's the community of other grads that you can get to know and network with. Yeah.
Until you start playing football against them, you're going to all fall out if they win and you don't. Reese, your favourite thing?
I think every team that you work with in the industry, they're so helpful and they understand that you're new, that you're a graduate, and that you're there to learn, basically. So, having exposure to different teams, but getting that experience is one of the best things for me.
Perfect. And last but not least, Luke.
I think it's given me the kind of time and the opportunity to understand and kind of know what I want kind of for my future, kind of what company I want to work for, what environment I want to work in, which is something that if I just kind of started an own role, maybe I went into a company, I didn't like it, but I don't know what I know. But now I've been to a couple of companies, I understand what I like.
Yeah, definitely. It's that variety again, isn't it? It just really opens your minds to everything in the different sectors and different employers as well. And so thank you all very much. You've definitely inspired people to apply to nuclear graduates. And so thank you very much for spending your time with us. Me and Jess have really enjoyed this webinar. And so just to shout out, like I mentioned, go and follow nuclear graduates on Gradcracker now to be alerted to when their opportunities do go live. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, that's what we're thinking. And don't forget, you can watch this webinar again this afternoon as a entire hour webinar, or if you want to watch the snippets, our colleague Morgan will be snippeting down the webinar as we speak when we close this off. So remember to mention the fact that you've watched this webinar when you are applying to nuclear graduates. You know, they really do want to hear that, and good luck when you do put your applications in. So next week, me and Jess are joined, like Jess said before, by our good friends Arup. So hopefully we're going to see you there at 2 o'clock the next Thursday. But for now, we shall see you later. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.